emphasize that measuring is very important in general. So our next session will be actually showcasing how measurement and analytics can make major increases in user acquisition, engagement, and revenue. So we have Nadim on stage, and we will have Salim Al-Sabah from Adjust, and Nadim Abu Hamad from MBU Orbit Communications. Thank you very much. Welcome on stage. One last announcement while we have our panelists. A car with a plate number 5834. There has been an announcement to move it. If it's for someone from the audience, please go to the reception. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Melis. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to meet each and every one of you. I see a lot of familiar faces to me, and some of you I'm looking forward to meet after this session in the coffee break. My name is Salim. I'm an account executive for Adjust, and today in this session we're going to speak a little bit about the importance of measurements of data, and to focus on two topics. Actually, you can see them on the screens, which are incrementality and predictive analytics to drive better results and impact, and of course results for our campaigns and marketing activities and efforts. On the stage with me we have Nadim Ibrahim and Nadim Abu Hamad. So if you can, yeah, two Nadims. Can you please, gentlemen, give the audience some background on yourselves, on your companies, entities, before we start this discussion?
I think most people know me by now. I just come with the last one. But I'm Nadim Ibrahim. I head up digital for Saudi. I think I'll go as far as that. And I'll hand over to the other Nadim.
Nadim Abu Hamad. I wear two hats. One is leading an MBU as a startup for one of the group companies called Al Mawarid. They own Orbit, they own Amex, they own Ad-Dawa, many companies in Salam Telecom. The other hat is marketing, because I also consult on go-to-market for a VOD application they're launching very soon, and some fast channels. So wearing two hats is interesting because you get to see a lot of flows and a lot of opportunities. So I hope we can share them today.
And thank you, gentlemen. So to start with, we have these two terms that we're going to be talking about. The first one is incrementality. This is not a new term, right? We've heard it before. It started to come to the market as a trend in the early 2000s maybe, and then we also heard it a little bit when digital marketing grew in the early 2010s. But recently, in the last couple of years, we started to hear it even more. So what is incrementality? Incrementality basically is measuring the additional impact of a marketing campaign or marketing activities that we ran that we wouldn't have gotten if we did not run these campaigns, right? Let's say I had a marketing campaign that I spent, let's say, $1 million on it, right? At the end of it, after like specific period, I checked my results and I see that I have 2 million in revenue. Now this might sound really good, right? I spent 1 million, I got 2 million in return. This is 200% return on investment, so this is good news. But what if I told you that, well, if we didn't spend this $1 million, right? If we only focused on the organic channels, on the organic users or customers that we have, that we would get $1.5 million, right? Then if we check this data, we say, well, this was not a winning investment for me. This was a losing one. This when comes the importance of incrementality and the ability of measuring it. Now, I would like to ask my guest speakers here, starting with you, Nadim Ibrahim. Is incrementality something that we can basically measure now, today, in our market, in our region? If so, how is this possible?
You've hit a very soft passion point of mine. Incrementality is very interesting. I think for those who are heads of marketing, there's nothing worse to go back to your CMO to say that my marketing was least effective, but organically I'm driving sales, because then the question becomes, what is the value of paid advertising, right? Today, there's ways of improving incrementality through other techniques, albeit basic techniques such as whether it's marketing mix model or a multi-touchpoint attribution. However, and a big however, it's quite probabilistic, although it's using scientific methods to be able to, model regression modeling to really understand what the impact of your marketing is over a base, right? Where it gets more exciting now is with the likes of Adjust, who hold a lot of deterministic data within your app from events that you will be tracking, is to really be able to prove the incremental effect that it is having above base that you would have got otherwise, right, organically. And for me, it tells an interesting story around to be able to prove to CMOs, to businesses, that it's quite a complex journey, because given this region is very app heavy, and majority, and your question was as well, is this market sort of ready? I think the basics need to be ready. Are you tracking the right elements within your app from the minute you open to the minute you end the app, to even to the point of uninstalling the app? And you need to be able to prove incrementality across all points, because some businesses will be seeking for revenue. Some businesses will be in the infancy, be looking at installs, and some will be looking at just adding an active user. All these carry some form of incrementality proof point, because you do need, or you may need, some paid marketing to help provide you with that insight. So I would say the market is and isn't ready. So I'm not giving you a definite answer, just to stand politically correct. But there's so much opportunity there that could be done with a lot of brands, and not even just advertisers. I also look at, even like travel apps. They're not, tracking events in the way they should be tracking to be able to prove an incremental uplift in whatever KPI it is that they're trying to measure.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Nadim Abu Hamad, my question to you is, now you mentioned that you wear two hats, basically, right? One for MBU and one for Orbit Communication. Let's focus on Orbit Communication now in this session. Can you give us some daily or some usual ways of measuring incrementality that you do for your current campaigns, past or the future ones?
Okay, we're soft launching, so nothing has seen the light properly, but we discovered incrementality by accident, simply by A/B testing and measuring. Okay. Luckily, we have Adjust. We can see all the different events, all the different attributions. So we were A/B testing campaign A and campaign B, very simply. And we were able to tell, okay, which publisher, which channel, which campaign helped the conversion. And then we discovered that if we add another campaign, it will dilute other messages that are running in parallel. So it's not only the effect of the channels, the conversions, it's how you're using it and the different events you're reading, but which campaign complements and which campaign also dilutes. And this is something fascinating. We found out that by not doing something sometimes help, or by doing it on different channels also help. Because we had the basics, like you said, we had the reading from Adjust, which helped. And it wasn't easy to put Adjust, but finally we got it right, and it's something interesting now. So, and this is purely on looking at two different campaigns, same budget, same different channels, comparing them.
Thank you very much. Now, Nadim Ibrahim, some people sometimes find it confusing to see the difference or understand the difference basically between incrementality and attribution. So how can we distinguish these two terms from each other?
Depends what school of thought you come from, because you could read as being quite similar. Attribution, consider it as to look at what touch points are, effective in driving an outcome. That's what I would say. Yeah. I think when you're looking at incrementality specifically, there's a specific ask to look at: would you have gotten that organically, if I'm not mistaken, right? The multi-touch point, or MTA, we'll look at is what is the efficacy of each of your paid media and non-paid media, what is driving what, and what is more impactful throughout that customer journey to end up with that conversion. And it's somewhat different. I think this, on incrementality, is as an extra layer of colour. That's what's missing from multi-touch point attribution. Because for me and my team and my agency, it becomes quite problematic when we start to interpret multi-touch point attribution. Because how can you say that, let's just take an example, Meta or X, they all have maybe like 30% efficacy here, 20% efficacy here, and 10% efficacy here. And then how are you meant to interpret that as, a media function to say, okay, where do I spend my ad dollars, and you spread it across all or not? The fact of the matter is, clients shouldn't care about which media is driving that transaction or that event engagement. I see it more as the fact that who is driving me the revenue, and how do I need to continuously invest in the marketplace to drive incremental reach, or has my brand got enough stature and equity in the marketplace that I don't need to? So you can look at reputable brands, whether you look at Emirates, or you look at STC, or you look at Apple. They've got the clout, arguably, to do it. And even consider Tesla. He refuses to advertise because he believes that organically he will drive it. But I'm sure if he was to do some analysis to understand the impact of paid advertising, which I guess he's doing through Twitter now that he's bought it because he needs the revenue there.
He can do it for free now,
right? But it's a proof point. So incrementality and multi-touch point attribution should be seen as very, very separate, but they complement each other.
Thank you. Now, Ibrahim, you also mentioned that for us to start actually leveraging incrementality and attribution, we need to start tracking. Now, I see that in this market specifically, since it's still a young market, it's a growing market, some businesses still don't know the importance of tracking, right? Some businesses feel like there's actually tell me, well, we want to do tracking, but we don't know how to do it. And some companies, they say, tracking comes with a lot of challenges. So what challenges come with tracking?
First of all, I think there's a challenge within brands themselves, their organization. Certainly from the conversations I've had, irrespective of the MMP provider that you might want to implement, is the IT teams. They get very wary about why you suddenly want to implement, let's say, adjust into an app that I've spent 2 years to develop and is going to get X number of million users. Why would I want to do this in the first place? So you have to go through that obstacle. Then the obstacle is, how many events do you really need to track? I know some that want to track every single event, and before you know it, their license fee is quite expensive by the number of attribution events that they're trying
it depends,
to.
Right?
It depends on your penetration in the marketplace, I guess. But also, it becomes even a challenge of so there's different use cases for different teams. Marketing teams will use event tracking for one specific thing. You have developers that will probably want to look at who is opting in from an ATT perspective, for example, and who isn't, and how is it detrimental to my app. So I would say there's a lot of challenges in having the right conversations with the right team, because suddenly app tracking doesn't just lie with Marcoms, it lies with a bunch of others.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wearing the other hat, the marketing hat, IT is a big stumbling block in terms of deciding what tools do we need for advertising and marketing. They also think they have the CRM engine, they can do anything they want. Whenever you bring something new, you walk into security issues, you walk into privacy, you can do this, you cannot do. This is the major hurdle today, is convincing the IT team and convincing management to put some budgets against collecting data. And who owns the data in companies today? We don't know. Is it part of the IT, CRM, management? It's very fragmented. And to create a unified data pool across the organization where you can put all your modeling, your predictive engines and everything, it's a big task. And it costs. I mean, it costs around 2 to 3 million reals to do that. Now try to convince management for that. It's very tough, and they take it from where? From marketing budget. And that's nearly 10 to 15% of your budget gone to establish, the infrastructure, which takes about a year to set up, by the way, from a live example I'm talking. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadim. So now, going to our second term, which is predictive analytics, right? This is also a term that we've heard a lot recently, especially with the boom coming with the AI and machine learning. So what is predictive analytics? It's basically a type of data, right? It is AI and machine learning empowered that will allow me to predict specific outcomes in the future about marketing campaigns that I'm planning to do, right? It is based on many variables. Some of these variables are going to happen in the future, like the season, like the trend going on, and some of them are based on historical data, like when I did something similar in the past, what results did I have, and what should I expect here? Now we can use this predictive analytics data to basically predict some of our important KPIs. Could be revenue per user, could be lifetime value of our users, could be retention rate, right? Now I would like to ask my panel co-hosts if they use predictive analytics today. If not, why not? If yes, how do we do so? Starting with you, Nadim Brahim.
Straight answer is no. I don't think the market is quite ready. There's a big education shift. I mean, I'll come back to your question in just a minute, but even if we just look at fraud prevention, for example, not many brands are endorsing fraud prevention. I mean, if show of hands of how many brands have fraud prevention in place right now in their app, there's not many show of hands. And that for me is big alarming, right? And we think of predictive analytics. Yes, I want to be able to predict what source of maybe revenue I can get from one individual, or right through to my communication, what it can.
And what obstacles do we have at the moment that are not allowing us to start leveraging this? You mentioned the maybe knowledge gap, and we need to do some training on it. Okay, what else do we need? Do we think we have the right tools available for us to enable us to do this?
I think tools you have, but the data infrastructure you don't have.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like Adjust is spearheading this conversation a lot, which is really, really great to see, because the data structure, absolutely. I mean, the number of brands that still are relying on very archaic CRM systems, that's one thing. Having the right data infrastructure of how they house the data and stitch all that data together is still conversations that are still happening. Not many brands have a CDP in place, and with CDPs carries different levels of governance in that respect, in terms of whether it's on premises or some allow it to be in the cloud, depending on your category. That's one stumbling block, and these are big stumbling blocks. A CDP, for example, would give you that predictive outcome. Typically, if you program it, it will give it to you. A Just solution also has a capability of doing so. I just think that we're still somewhat far behind to reaching that point. But, we also have to take an element of accountability in the industry, that, to be able to nurture advertisers, brands, agencies, tech companies, need to have an element of thought leadership in this space, because you will reach a point in maybe 2 or 3 years' time where this technology has been available, and then suddenly, you have new startups coming in, like Auto, for example, just in the previous segment, that suddenly are taking the biggest market share, and then before you know it, legacy brands who really could be adopting and embracing predictive outcomes or predictive analytics, have sort of missed that boat.
Yeah.
A simple example, we will be getting, hopefully once we collect data on our VOD application, is a recommendation engine like Netflix does. And apparently their recommendation engine is a major driver of how people consume the program. So this is something we will do, but again, you need critical mass, lots of data coming in, historical data, and also the right infrastructure to latch it to the different new data coming from, be it weather, be it mood, be it, so you can build on it.
Then there's also the use case. Who finds predictive or predictions creepy? I mean, it's borderline of, personalization, right?
I mean, not marketing teams, I guess.
Well, the thing is, like, I tend to stay away from the phrase personalization because it's all about relevancy. I remember when Netflix, it brought in their personalization look, and if I'm watching The Crown and you're watching The Crown, on my homepage, the picture of The Crown might be a brown person and you might have a white person, for example. It created a lot of turmoil in the US when this took off because suddenly they thought you're racial profiling because of my ethnicity and you're bringing characters that you think I might relate to. But clearly Netflix are in a position to do that. They just think it just has a better synergy. So suddenly,
or nudity versus non-nudity.
Absolutely.
Depends
right?
on the user, so.
Just don't look at what's the top 10 trending in Netflix
Yeah.
in this region. You might be shocked. But this is the point. The point is predictive outcomes from a business perspective would make sense, but as the consumer also want you to be able to track on what the predictive outcome might be.
I think it depends on where it's being used and how it's being used. I'll give you another example where predictive is doing amazing job for me personally. We all have smartphones, right? We have Siris, we have Google Assistants that most of us use sometimes, right? When I first got my iPhone, I was first using Android for long years, and then I got an iPhone like 2 years ago. So iPhone did not have any data on me before, right? I was a fresh new user for them. So Siri wasn't doing a great job for me, Like I was asking her questions and bringing me like really weird answers. But after using Siri and speaking with Siri for like 6 months, 1 year, it started to bring me results of what exactly I was looking for. This is another good example of how predictive can actually help us on our daily life basis, right? So yes, you mentioned a few things. It can be creepy sometimes, could be helpful sometimes. The good thing is if you know how to manage it and how to use it, then this is good for you as an end user and for you, of course, as a marketeer. Now, my final question to you gentlemen will be, we spoke about like the current situation of measurement, the importance of it, what challenges we might be facing. What do you think the trend will be like in the coming years?
Okay, on a channel perspective, CTV is something we need to keep an eye on. Connected TVs. It's still in its infancy phase for advertisers and marketeers. Although it's a great channel to maximize your reach, once they solve the measurement aspect of it, because it's no longer about viewability but attention. How can you measure attention? With CTV you can go places. I mean, this is something I see in my field at least. The other one is very simple and very much in need, is again better customer experience in anything you do. The panel before us was talking about delivering stuff in 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Today you order food, it comes after 1 hour, and it's so frustrating, So I see still customer experience is king no matter what you do. And there are many pain points in everything, little details that are not looked at, and this is frustrating for any customers today.
I think it's the unification, how you unify the measurement of one individual across multiple touch points, from my mobile to my CTV or my TV to web. I think this is a massive, massive disconnect. And we, for as media guys, we have these, wall gardened areas, from mobile to desktop and so forth, making our jobs very, very difficult. We need partners and tech partners to be able to sort of think of solutions of how they can bring all this together in some shape or form, whether it's through incremental lifts, predictive analytics, or whether it's other methods. But I definitely foresee that we're reaching a point where we can no longer have these wall-gardened approaches of Meta, Google, X and so forth, where they're not willing to let advertisers sort of measure what is the total efficacy. And we all know why at the end of the day, but there needs to be some form of unification around that measurement piece, and I think it's super important for us.
Measuring the halo effect of what's happening, basically, more than just the click.
Yeah, totally agree. So I think that's gonna be about it, right? Sorry, Melis, we got a little bit late.
No, it was really interesting. So thank you very much. This was our last session before the coffee break. It was great. We really heard your details on predictive analytics and how the data infrastructure should be in place. So measurement is still one of the key, but customer experience is also very, very important. So we'll be going out for a coffee break now, and we'll be back at 11:40. So hope to see you all back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.